Yeah, welcome back to Hebrew, to the book of Job, and we continue now with the verses 10, verse 10 in chapter 14. Again, we saw in the previous verses that Job was giving this illustration of a tree, and maybe it's part of a wisdom poem, some say, maybe not, but he's giving this illustration of a tree which, even though it's cut down, still may come back to life. There's hope for a tree. It draws a contrast now with Geber. We've already seen the word Geber. It's just another word for Ish. We saw it in Job chapter 3 when that person announced that a Geber was born. But now this Geber, he says he dies, and then va yechalash. Usually this is understood to be weak. But here probably stronger, and he just departs. He just vanishes away. And then he expires here. Gava, we also tell this, he expires. And notice here the vav consecutive is not being translated as past. Only happens in poetry, and in a few places in poetry. It also you find in Psalm 22. It's very interesting. But most people don't translate it as a past. And again, that's very unusual for a vav consecutive with an imperfect, but it might reflect, in my opinion, an older stage of the language. But yeah. But in any case, the translation is fairly clear. It's used in parallel with the simple imperfect. So again, man dies and departs. He expires. Adam expires. Again, Geber in parallel with Adam. Again, man expires. V'ayo. V'ayo usually understood. And where is he? Where is he? But again, if you just have the consonantal text, some might understand it maybe Eino maybe, and he's not anymore. In any case, the translation is that the understanding is fairly clear that man dies and basically he disappears, he vanishes. There's no more man, right? Notice here, but a man dies and is laid low, breathes his last, and where is he? Where is he? Or other translation, a man dies and fades away, departs gray. He breathes his last. Where is he? Where is he, right? He's gone. There's no more trace of him, right? And here is giving an illustration with the water. Azalu mayim, azal, it's again to disappear, to go away. The water goes away from the sea. Miniyam, from the sea. Mini is a poetic word. A poetic way of saying minium. It's probably maybe for metric reason, for rhythm reason. So the water goes away, disappears from the sea. V'nahar yechrov v'yavesh. Here two very similar verbs, basically to become dry, to become parched. And the rivers. The river here probably functioning a collective like the river or the rivers. Become dry and parched up, right? But man, or we can say so man shakav, so man lies down and does not rise. V'lo yakum. So man lies down, generic, and will never, we could say, will never rise. Ad bilti hashayame, ad bilti shamayim. Until bilti shamayim. Bilti, usually this is the negation of an infinitive construct, but appears also in this poetic verse, again the sense of negation, until the heavens are no more. There's another possibility, but that's a little bit more complicated. It's possible that this is an error, and maybe the verb is balat, maybe with tet. And that's another possibility, but in general, the translators agree that basically man will never rise up, even until the heavens are no more. And then he continues, lo yakitsu, v'lo yeyoru mishnatam. So basically, this day he will not awake and be aroused of his sleep. But this is interesting because it says he will not awake or be roused out of his sleep. But if you notice here, this is plural and this is plural. This is of course the verb kitz, and it's a he feel. And this, please notice, is the verb or, to be roused up. It's something that we saw about the Leviathan in chapter 3. But here's the man who dies, will not be raised up from their sleep. But here the Septuagint has mishenato, which would be from his sleep. So, and again, maybe just using plural to refer again to two men. They, men, they, and man is used collective, but at the same time is using a plural. They do not rise up, and they do not awake, and they're not roused up from their sleep. So notice another translation here. So man lies down never to rise again. They will not wake up until the heavens are no more. They will not stir from their sleep. But the idea is they will not wake up from their sleep. So notice this translation maintains the they. Even though it's very interesting, this switch from man who lies down, and then the switch to a plural. I guess the meaning is still understandable. Notice gray. Waters from the sea may be exhausted, and the river may be dried up and drained, referring to the first part. So this is what is the case with man from Job's point of view. Man is different from the tree, because when man expires, when man dies, where is he? He seems to be gone. He seems to be gone, just like the waters from the sea and from the river, which dries up. If man lies down, he will not rise up until the heavens are no more. You know, this is something that in the Bible never happens really. The heavens are considered to be almost eternal, and still there's no chance. There seems to be no chance for man to get up. So here there are some explanation of the verb chalatz, chalash. If you see upstairs, if you want to pause this and look at it. And also some more explanation about that ayo, where is he? We briefly discussed this. It has been suggested the negation particle ein, ayin, so then einenu, he is not. So yeah. I like very much this translation of verse 11 by Dorm. Perhaps this is the sense of the Hebrew, is that you may exhaust all the water in the sea and the rivers, but you will not revive the dead. So in other words, all the waters from the sea and the rivers may dry up, and when that happens, even if that happens, there's no chance to revive the dead. Or, you know, so Dorm actually puts it like this: the sea and the rivers will dry up sooner than a dead man will rise. So this again is a translation that is supported by a few other interpreters, as you see here, some Germans and some French interpreters. So this particular interpretation and translation supports further the hopelessness and the impossibility for a man to come back from the dead. So yes, this is other possibilities in verse 12. Let me go back a little bit to verse 12, and we saw that expression that is usually used to negate infinitive construct ad bilti, but some take it as an infinitive from belot. In fact, the Gray takes it as an infinitive from belot with Greek versions. And then that's why, notice what it says: the more graphic belot is to be preferred to the negative bilti of the Masoretic text, as the same figure in Isaiah 51 and 102. So this is possible, and in that case, notice the translation by Gray. Waters from the sea may be exhausted, and the river may be dried up. And then the translation from Gray, I have it here with G, to wear out till the heavens, instead of are no more, he would say till the heavens wear out. if you read instead of BLT, you read Belot with a tet here instead of a tav, and there's no yod, and then that would be in line with some of the Greek readings. In any case, again, I think it's clear what's happening here. The idea is the idea of a hopelessness. Man will not come back from the dead. It's kind of like the waters that go away from the sea, and also the rivers that dry up. So man, if he lies down, he will not get up. He will not rise up, even until the end of days, even until the heavens are no more. He will not wake up from his sleep. Of course, sleep is used here in the sense metaphorically referring to the sleep of death. So this is what we have here in this verse. Let's see what Job continues. Now Job again addresses God directly and it says, "Me etain," but here now in this case is the wish. We saw the use of me etain, who will produce, who will give. The more literal translation, but here's the more the one that is more common, I would say, where you express a wish. Oh, that you would hide me, tzafan, you would hide me in Sheol, and you would hide me until your anger until your anger basically returns, and all that you would, so this me etain continues in the second part, and all that you would set me as a chok, a limit, and then you will remember me. Or maybe you set for me a limit or a set time, notice the translation. In other words, you set a time for me for this punishment, for this suffering that I'm going through. And after this suffering I'm going through, you will remember me. Oh, that you will remember me, of course, the verb is zachar. And of course, here, just to refresh your memory, zachar, it of course means to remember, but many times it's used in the Bible in a very positive way, like God remembered Noah, and because he remembered Noah, he acted toward him in a favorable way. So this is, I think, the way Job is thinking about. Oh, that you would hide me in Sheol, that you would conceal me until your wrath or your anger is past, right? Until your anger turns, literally, and that you would appoint a set time for me and remember me. I think appointing a set time for my punishment, for my pain that I'm going through. Oh, if that would happen. And now it continues with verses 14, 15, 16, 17. Im yamut geber ha yichyeh. So again, it's coming back to this idea. If a man dies, geber yamut. And let me just take you back again to that phrase because it's important again. Geber yamut. We saw this one. Here he was fairly categorical, man dies and is laid low, breathes his last, where is he? It's kind of, where is he? He's no more, right? He's no more. But now he continues, is there hope here? It seems to be hope, seems to be a question mark. If a man dies, again, ha, so notice the interrogative particle ha, and then it's of course in an imperfect, but the verb is chaya. Please don't confuse it with haya. This is with the chet. Chaya, to live. If man dies, will he live? Will he live? This is an important question. Will he live again? Again, it's just added there, but that's the idea. If a man dies, shall he live again? So some people have a problem with the sentence. They say, oh, no, it cannot be. It's probably a later addition. Because Job definitely doesn't believe that man can live again. So this is probably a later interpolation. I don't see any reason to say that this is a later interpolation. There's no textual witnesses to support that. At least no major textual witnesses. So I would just take it as part of the text. I think there's this question mark in the mind of Job. If a man dies, will he live again? And then I say, all the days of his. So please notice here, this is of course yom, and the plural is yamim, and in construct it's yemei. All the days of his service, this is tzava, which means service. Perhaps you recognize that those particular three roots from the expression Adonai Tzavaot, the Lord of armies. So that's why this service is usually understood to be military service. But here in this context, probably it's not military service, but just service in general. And let's look at some of the translation. All the days of my service, yeah, my service. But probably the idea of a service which is a strenuous service. All the days of my service, I will hope, or shall I hope, or I will hope. All the days of my service, I will hope, Yachal, of course, PL, until Adbo, until the coming of Khalifati. Khalifati, what is this Khalifa? Again, a very, very question. My renewal, until my renewal comes. But we will notice here, that the word appears rarely. So notice here tzava. It refers number 7, military service, compulsory labor, but probably applies here also to the service here of Job. Notice in Job, the lexicon applies this phrase to this labor, which he sees it as a compulsory labor, service which one does not volunteer to do, but it's imposed. So it looks like in 3 times in the book of Job is seen in this way. So now you understand a little bit better. All the days of my service, I will hope until my renewal comes. And again, let me go back to this word Khalifa. Khalifa, we notice it's a very, very rare word. Changing, relief, but it is understood here to be in the idea of a relief or renewal. Relief here, some go with the translation renewal. Perhaps relief is more appropriate. All the days of my service I will wait till my relief should come. And here you want to consult a few other translations. I have not consulted other translations in this particular, for this particular verse. Tikra va'anochi eneka lema'aseh yadecha tichsof. Tichsof. You will call, and I will answer you. Lema'aseh yadecha, to the work of your hands, you will kasaf. So it depends how you understand kasaf. Some translate you will care for. Let's see how the translation is here. You would call and I would answer you. You would long for. So some translate this long for. Many translate this long for. Great. You would care for the work of your hands. So you would call and I would answer you. You would long for the work of your hands. For then you would count my steps, and you will not keep watch. You will not watch over my sins. This is actually the ESV translation. Notice how they translate. You would call and I would answer you. You would long for the work of your hands. For then you would number my steps. You will not keep watch over my sin. My transgression, pesha, here pishi, my transgression would be sealed up in a bag, it's tziror, would be sealed up, chatum. Chatum looks like a kal, passive participle. My transgression would be sealed up like in a bag, and you would cover over my iniquity. This is the translation of the ESV. However, I think Gray is a little bit more accurate about this. He says this: you would call and I would answer, you would long for the work of your hands. But the problem is, but, here adversative, but now, actually what you're doing, you are actually numbering my steps. You keep watch over my transgression. My sin is sealed up in a bundle, and you put sealing clay on my iniquity. This is what is happening. It's not this wish that you find in the ESV translation, you would call and I would answer you, for then you will number my steps. You will not keep watch over my sin, right? It doesn't seem to be that that kind of wishful thing. But the problem I think is seen more clearly by Gray. But now look what you're doing. What you're doing, you're actually keeping a watch over my steps and over my transgression and over my sin, right? So this is this again. You might want to check with a few translation, but I would go actually with Gray here. The problem that Job has in this particular section is that God is keeping watch over his transgression and over his sins, whatever those sins those are, because of course we know that he denies them. But here I'm a little bit confused, I'll be honest, about verse 15, and we have to think about this, how we interpret this one, because it says, you would call, and I would answer, you would long for the work of your hands. I don't know about that. God would call and Job would answer. I don't know. It's a little bit difficult to understand this particular section, but notice the focus on this verse 14, this glimmer of hope that it exists here. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days of my service I would wait till my relief should come. Is there a relief to come? Is there a renewal even to come? I don't know. Right? So notice here, God's care for the work of his hands in temporary relief of Job's sufferings until a fair hearing is granted. Is that the idea that is found here? This is some comments by Gray. You might want to take a look at, pause this and look at these comments by Gray. But now the text continues. V'olam har nofel ibol v'tzur yatak mi makomo. Avanim shachku mayim tishtof safichecha afar aretz v'tikvat enosh hevatta. So again, a very, very important phrase, tikva, of course, in construct. The hope of man. So it's interesting, in this verse we saw three ways to refer to man. We saw Gever, we saw Adam, and now we see Enosh. Can't remember if you also saw Ish. I don't think we saw Ish, but we saw Gever, we saw Adam, and now we see Enosh. I don't think I think that the different usages do not the intention is not to convey a different meaning. It's just a different way to refer to man. But now notice the translation. But the mountain is falling and crumbles away. Depend how we understand this. Vatsur, the rock, is removed from its place, and then the waters basically wash away or wear away, shachach, if we understand it like that, wash away the stones. And this is very problematic. In fact, this is probably wrong. What is the meaning of this? But notice the translation. The torrents wash away the soul of the earth, afar eretz, literally the dust of the earth, the soul of the earth, and so you destroy the hope of man. So you destroy the hope of man, just like the mountains are falling away, just like the rocks are removed, just like the torrents wash away the soul of the earth. This is how God sees the actions of God. This is how Job sees the actions of God. Is somebody who destroys, avad. Very important word about destruction appears in Psalm 1. We saw it a few times. you destroy means to perish, but also to destroy in the he field. Of course, it's in the he field. You destroy in the kal, it means to perish usually, but in the he field is to destroy, to cause to perish. You destroy the hope of man. Of course, here in this translation, I obscured a few of the problems, and there's a problem actually with nofel ibol. I will point it out. There's also a question how to understand shataf, and of course, this most likely seems to be wrong. So let's look at the explanation. But notice that Gray's translation: a mountain falls in ruin and a rock shifts from its place. Water reduces stone to dust. The flood sweeps away the soul of the earth, and you destroy the hope of man. You destroy the hope of man. And most agree with this last section, and this is the most important. Even though this comparison with the mountains and with the soil of the earth, there may be slightly different translations, but I think the meaning is understandable in all cases. But here, notice what he recommends in verse 15. Nofel ibol. He recommends reading Napol ibol with again Theodosius and the Syriac for the Masoretic Nofel ibol. So if it's Napol ibol, then we are dealing with the infinitive absolute and an imperfect. And notice it's ipol, not ibol, so then the verb would be nafal. So therefore his translation, a mountain falls in ruin, right? A mountain falls in ruin. So he would translate this napol ipol. So I hope you understand that he sees in both of these cases the verb nafal. Here would be an infinitive absolute and here would be an imperfect. And he goes with a few other witnesses, like especially the Theodosian and the Syriac. That is a possible translation, but again, the more important problem is the meaning of safichecha. Safichecha. Actually, this word does not seem to appear, and it's probably referring to, instead of there's a metathesis here. Or I'm not exactly sure about the technical term, but basically these two consonants change place. So it's probably sachifa. Let's look at the explanation here. So notice either saficha or sehifach. I think it's sehifach, and I will demonstrate it to you. But notice here shachach. It's understood to erode in the book of Job here, Job 14:19. So if it's understood to erode, then just like a rock, just like we're looking at the verb shachak, here, just like the waters erode the stones, just like the water erode or wear away the stones, shachak. And also we have the verb shataf, and the idea is to flood over, and we saw that here as the waters, basically the waters flood over and basically take away the dust, the soil of the earth. But here's the noun that I wanted to look back at, and notice what the lexicon gives us. Safiach, he tells us, doesn't exist. He says, look at sahifa. So as I mentioned, there's probably a scribal error here. And notice, of course, it's not a het, but it's a hey. So notice here the word sahifa is usually understood as a downpour of the rain. And I think that's the way to go with sahifa. Actually, it says look at sahifa, but this is most likely an error. In the lexicon, it should be sahifa with a het. So then in that case, basically what we have here, it was a mistake by the scribe where it changed the het and the pay, the places of pay, and the het was reversed. And actually we do have this noun. It does appear in one place in the in the book of Proverbs, and we have it in Proverbs. I think it's mentioned by Gray. It appears in Proverbs 23, and this is why I went to Proverbs 23. And if you look at Proverbs 23, it says, "Gever Rush, a poor man who oppresses the poor." So basically, a poor man who oppresses the poor. Matar socheif, a beating rain. Matar, rain means rain. And socheif, a beating rain, and there's no food, which leaves no bread or no food. But notice socheif, a beating rain. So it's a rain that is kind of like a downpouring rain. So I think that is the correct interpretation. So I would change this. Then I would change this instead of safichecha to sechifecha. So then we will have that translation. The flood sweeps away. The flood sweeps away the soil of the earth. So basically, it's downpour. The downpour basically takes away that soil of the earth, so God destroys the hope of man. So this is in the direction in which we want to go to. And then, because of lack of time, I will not go over the rest. But I just want to just look briefly over this and over the translation. You can just slowly move your video if you want to look at it. And I put some of my notes here. You prevail over against him, or better, you overpower him. You overpower him forever, or probably better, utterly. And then he passes away. He passes away. Halach. Again, this is actually unusual here. Look in my notes. Moshane panav. So basically, his face changes, and you send him away. Or you change, I'm sorry. You change. Moshane panav. Moshane panav. You change, or his face changes, and you send him away. His sons come to honor, and he does not know it. They are brought low, and he perceives it not. He feels only the pain of his body, and he mourns only for himself. This is the possible translation, and some of the verbs that are relevant here for the translation. But otherwise, this is not really that difficult to understand. Perhaps just pay attention to this particular phrase. Again, he perceives it not. He doesn't understand. It's something that man doesn't understand. Of course, the verb being, understanding, brings them back into the realm of wisdom literature. But this is the chapter 14. It's a very hopeless chapter. Let's see if we can learn something when we meet and discuss it in class. Okay, thank you, and again, try to use these notes wisely, and check other translations, and of course check your commentaries. God bless.